Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yes. The best way to celebrate it.
If you carry a copy of this, you won't need to wear any green.
Yeah. You won't get pinched.
You won't get pinched.
Yeah. So don't. Cole, what have you been up to? Have you been writing or performing at all this year?
No, not really. Just kind of taking some time for me.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Well, you should get back at it at some point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're
I
all
think I
very
will.
worried about you.
Yeah. So, did you want to read from the book first?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's get this out of the way.
Yeah, well, let's get the reading out of the way. I agree. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Self-Sabotage and Other Ways I've Spent My Time by Jeffery Self. It's a great read. If you haven't learned to read, now might be the time.
It's a great...
for this book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it out today? Is like when
it came out last week, Cole. Okay. You should start following me on Instagram. It's not great, but it's not bad either. You know, over there. You used to, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
God, that was fun.
Oh, it was. All right. So I'm going to read a little bit in the book. One of the stories in the book is called Sweat into Sondheim, and it is about myself and Cole when we started working together a long time ago, and sort of goes through the journey of that relationship. And within that adventure, one of our first quote unquote gigs was we were invited to perform on a gay cruise to the Caribbean. Ooh. And it was a really interesting experience for us both.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read. So what happened was we had been, right before that, we had been contacted by a gay stranger on Facebook, and who invited us. And he's here tonight.
Course,
yeah. And we were brought to LA.
Yeah.
We stayed in this man's guest room.
Yes.
Yes, we did. And he followed us around with a camera.
Yep.
So far, so bad. And I think they're making like a sizzle reel for a reality show. Is that what we were told?
We were flown out.
Yeah, we were flown out.
Yeah.
I remember they had like you cleaning Bernadette Peters' star at one point on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
I think I licked it.
Probably.
I think I licked it.
I feel like we went to Pinkberry a lot. I remember they filmed us getting like spray tans. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We would like flip cams at like
I can't believe we didn't question any of this.
No, we weren't.
Yeah.
And we weren't like, we should make it very clear, we were not getting paid at all.
No.
At all. There was no money.
But we weren't losing money.
No, we weren't.
We weren't losing money.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And we at the end of that though, I think I kind of sort of blew it up because do you remember I had that panic attack while we were supposed to be driving that little
Which one?
Yeah, sure. But I was supposed to be driving one of those smart cars. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
And they were filming us, and I couldn't handle it, and you can't fucking drive still. So like it was like a nightmare, and I think that was the end of the trip. But anyway, we got back, and the person, the same guy, invited us to then come perform on a gay cruise, and we had somehow not learned our lesson.
Yeah.
So this is that part of the story. Okay. That's when we were invited to perform on a gay cruise to the Caribbean by the same Facebook stranger who had brought us to LA. It was a bitterly cold January in New York, and it felt like the biggest of breaks to be hired to perform on a boat full of gay guys for a week. Cole was immediately skeptical after our experience in LA, but I had the emerald waters of the Caribbean in my freezing eyes. The problem started as soon as we remembered neither of us had passports and found out that by being hired to perform on this boat meant we were merely being invited to stay for free while all the other performers were actually being paid. The Facebook stranger agreed to pay for our rushed passports, and as we waited outside an office near Penn Station to get them, Cole asked if I was sure I wanted to do this, pointing out that neither of us had any money whatsoever to spend while on the boat. I retorted that the food would be free and that after we performed our first show, everyone on the boat would be so obsessed with us that everyone would buy us drinks all week. This was always a key difference between Cole and myself. While I was desperate for anything that felt like success, Cole has always been capable of letting things grow naturally and becoming good at whatever pace it takes. When I say our experience on that January 2009 week-long gay cruise out of Miami was bad, it is like saying the icebergs might be melting. We boarded the boat where the stranger from Facebook who had gotten us booked plowed us with vodka Red Bulls a few hours before we were set to perform our show on the first night of the voyage. The vibe was immediately not quite what I'd call us. Electronic dance music blared out of every possible corner of this floating gay metropolis, which was promoted as the biggest gay cruise of all time. And the instantaneously Speedo-clad men, did they arrive that way from the Miami airport, were already grinding and fucking on every available surface of the ship in broad daylight. The entertainment for that first evening was quite literally charo. On the main stage, followed by us in the medium-sized cabaret room called the Pharaoh's Lounge, which you'd better believe was decorated in 100% problematically misused Egyptian decor. We didn't have a cruise act, but instead simply opted to perform the same party and play show we'd been performing to young and old New York show queens for the past few months. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Unless, we'd soon learn, you bring it on a boat. Cole and I buzzed on the vodka Red Bulls in the Miami sun, anxiously rehearsed our show before we went upstairs to watch Charo. I mean, sure, we had a show to perform, but when you were on a cruise with Charo, you watched Charo, okay? That's called being a human being. As we stood in the back of the enormous theater where the cruise director was welcoming the audience to Charo, any excitement or confidence we'd been feeling quickly dissipated. And after this, I have got a question for you, the gay cruise director said into a microphone, exactly how you'd imagine the gay cruise director with access to a microphone to speak. Who likes to laugh? The 1,000 or so gay men in the sold-out theater all cheered uproariously. And who in here likes hot young twinks? The cruise director continued, which was obviously met with uproarious cheering. Well, then head on up to the Pharaoh's Lounge after Charo for two of the funniest, hottest, bitchiest twinks you'll ever meet, Jeffrey and Cole. The crowd cheered as Cole and I melted into the back wall of the theater. I swallowed a lump in my throat the size of the lifeboat I suddenly wanted to escape in, and as any hope that this would be the magical week I'd insisted it would be faded from my mind like the mainland had just done as we set sail into the middle of the Atlantic. We had 2 hours until showtime, which ended up being 3 because, well, Charo, and there was no turning back now. As we stood behind the curtain waiting to go on, it seemed as if every drunk gay guy from Charo's electrifyingly successful show had crammed into the Pharaoh's Lounge. We'd done the show a dozen times in New York at that point, but as we knew the show like the back of our hands, the problem was that this fired up crowd would have preferred hand jobs to our comedy. While there was no argument that we were twinks, and I'd venture to even say funny, we weren't all that bitchy, and we weren't necessarily the type this crowd would find hot. Within 2 minutes of the start of our show, the crowd had turned against us. They were too drunk, we were too drunk, and the show was completely wrong for this floating venue on the sea. Where they wanted dick jokes and Lady Gaga references, we offered asides about poopy enema water and Shelley Long. We were bombing before the clock had hit 10 minutes, and by bomb, I don't mean the 1996 Olympic Village, I'm talking Pearl Harbor. People booed, literally threw things at the stage, and finally walked out until only 5 people were left. 5 people who had taken pity on us as we were both covered in sweat and communicating complete and utter failure into each other's eyes by the time the show approached its merciless end. When even Cole as Bernadette Peters didn't fix anything, I knew that the goose was cooked. In the show's final moments, Cole returned to the stage to shoot my foot in the big finale. But as they reached for their pocket, they realized they'd forgotten to pack the gun entirely. So instead, they took a fork off a now hauntingly empty table in the front row, saying with little to no energy whatsoever, "I'm gonna stab your foot with a fork." Then we turned to the audience mid-scene, bowed dejectedly, leaving the stage to what can't even be considered scattered applause. It was more like the sound of an old Southern grandma clapping her hands together to shoo away a stray dog. Go on now! We stood behind the curtain, completely destroyed, until the tech person came back to get our microphones and assure us that everyone had left. It was pretty clear that absolutely no one on the boat was going to be obsessed with us, and certainly nobody would be buying us drinks. We retreated to our windowless staterooms with our heads down like 2 fugitives on the run before locking ourselves inside. We sat together for a bit, both emotional wrecks, fighting back tears not unlike the ones we'd shed on that balcony in Hollywood, once again wishing more than anything to be back in New York. I didn't leave my room for the next 24 hours. Instead, I downed the free single bottle of red wine that had come with the room, popped 3 Tylenol PM, savoring every drop of the shitty wine going down my throat, knowing I wouldn't be able to buy more. A full day later, as the boat made its way somewhere toward Haiti, Cole knocked on my door, awaking me from my slumber/coma. "Hey, I went up to the buffet and saw Alec Mapa and Miss Richfield 1981. They said nobody's mad at us. Do you want to come get some food?" I agreed. In a cap and sunglasses, like a recently canceled Bravo celebrity, I followed Cole up to the buffet, where we spent the rest of the day eating our feelings. Luckily, there was one glimmer of hope. I arrived back to my stateroom to find that our friend Ben Rimmelauer, a dear friend of mine and Cole's, had figured out a way to wire us $300 onto the boat. I don't know if Ben knew that we were penniless while we boarded the boat, and whether he'd maybe received a mayday from a gay guy on board who had seen our first night's show, or he had some sort of witchy sense that things hadn't gone as planned. I don't know. But he did whatever the hell he had to do to get us the cash we'd need to survive the next few days. But the sword of Damocles was still hanging over our heads because we still had another show to do. We had been strongly encouraged by the person who'd booked us to come up with something, absolutely anything else to perform. We'd been demoted to the small piano room and were being promoted and the boat was promoting us with the enthusiasm you'd use to promote a broken toilet at a chili cook-off on the hottest day of August in Shreveport, Louisiana. As the boat approached Puerto Rico, I hastily downloaded as many karaoke tracks as I could in the 10 minutes of internet my debit card could pay for, with the idea that Cole singing Whatever Lola Wants would possibly get us a forgiveness for our sins. Now, the trip did end on a high note, however, when the cruise's surprised guest performer was revealed to be none other than Patti LuPone, fresh off her run in Gypsy on Broadway. As soon as we heard that she was on the boat somewhere, our morning turned into playing a live-action variation of Where's Waldo. It wasn't long before we found ourselves face to face with Mama Rose herself as we stepped into a crowded elevator, she with a plate of scrambled egg whites she'd just gotten from the breakfast buffet. One queen behind us called out, "Patti, is that all you're eating?" And she replied, "I'm feeling seasick, doll." Not bad, not bad. And another queen eagerly chimed in, "I'm sure someone can get you Dramamine." And without skipping a beat, Patti joked, "I want Quaaludes." And the elevator door slammed right on cue. She performed 2 standing room only shows on that final night. Cole and I sat in the front row, refusing to move between performances, in fear of losing our seats, again, tearfully holding on to each other, not unlike that first awful night in our staterooms following our terrible show. But this time, with the tears of joy, the type of joy you can only feel when you're a 21-year-old stuck aboard a boat somewhere in the Caribbean, full of gay guys who booed you, watching Patti LuPone sing English Teacher from Bye Bye Birdie, having just overdrawn your checking account to buy a karaoke track of whatever Lola wants.
By the way, that show killed in New York.
Yeah. Killed.
We killed in New York.
Well, that's in the book. I mean,
Yeah.
we did very well. It was called Party and Play.
Yeah.
And we called it that because...
Put us on the map.
Yeah, it really did. It really did. We performed it at right around the corner at the basement of that theater,
The
Darryl
Roth Theater, yeah.
And do you recall that the person we hired to take
tickets took money.
Took our money.
Took the money as
We
well.
met him on Facebook, and we were like, we finished the show, and it was like standing room only for some reason. And then we were like, let's go get that cash, and it was all gone.
Yeah.
I think it was like $100 left or something.
Yeah.
And we spent that.
We did.
But and then we brought that to Joe's Pub, but then we did it on the cruise, and it was
Different audience.
different vibe,
Different
just
audience.
different vibe, different POV. But it was. Do you remember any of that cruise?
I remember Patty.
Yeah,
And
well,
I remember when we
sure.
were rehearsing. We were rehearsing our new show. That we could hear, we were like coming up with like what we were gonna do, anything to do, and we hear from one room over someone else rehearsing, and we hear the piano go dun 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 dun, and we were like, oh my god, and we could hear Patti LuPone rehearsing in the next room.
Those chords didn't get any reaction.
I know. I like those chords.
I was like, what song is that? Like, what's that front? Is that Vita?
Yeah.
Well,
it's
this is
Evita.
a gypsy
Don't cry
crowd,
for
Cole.
me.
This is a gypsy crowd.
Come on. I see some. Is that a Cats T-shirt?
Oh, okay.
Well, we got. Okay.
And
Someone
thank you
should
for
know.
coming, Betty Buckley. Thank you.
Thank you.
She's always in that Cats
She's
T-shirt.
always in a Cats
like-
T-shirt.
Hey, it's the only clean thing I own. Why are all her clothes dirty? I don't know. But they are. But yeah, I remember that. And then, do you remember when we went to that on that same cruise? They did a party for all the performers, and then they didn't invite us.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, they
I don't
did it in
remember
like the
that.
cruise. The guy who like was running the cruise's stateroom, like his like suite, and we heard about it. It was the night of the white party.
Yeah.
And we didn't either of us have anything white to wear.
No.
And we crashed that party. And we were
I
like,
don't
well, we're
remember that.
performers on the boat as
Yeah.
well, so we should be in here.
But do you
And
remember do you remember the only thing we were drinking on that cruise?
I read vodka Red Bulls that first night, but
The
what
first
else?
night, but then once we had never had a Bloody Mary before.
Oh, that's when we got so
And
into
then we
Bloody
got
Marys.
So into Bloody Marys.
And I remember us-
morning, noon, night.
Oh, yes.
We'd be at like 3 a.m. like 3 more Bloody Marys, please.
And
Yeah.
I remember you being like, no, this is good because these are light. Like these are easy.
Yeah.
You can drink these all day.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
And I wonder why I have acid reflux.
Truly.
Yeah.
Truly. And then do you remember we got off the boat? We only got off the boat once. Or I only got
Puerto
off
Rico.
once. In Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And we went off.
That's when Patty got on, by the way.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Write that down.
But no, we were walking. We walked around like Old San Juan, and we turned that corner.
All those cats?
Oh, those cats. Speaking of Betty Buckley.
So
But we
many
turned
cats.
the corner, and no joke, there were like 200 cats, and they all at once turned and stared at us.
And we kept asking people, like, what about all those cats in San Juan?
Back
And
when
no
we
one,
got on the
everyone
boat,
was
none
like,
of them
what are you
saw 'em.
talking about?
Nobody.
Anyway.
Maybe it was too many Bloody Marys. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it was. There were a lot of cats.
Yeah.
a lot of cats.
Well, speaking of cats
Yeah.
and Betty Buckley,
Let's talk about it.
let's talk about The Elephant in the Room, which is your book.
Ah, yes.
This, I think it's maybe the only book I've read that describes blood mixing with cum.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
So if if
Yes.
you're someone who's like, I need something new. I've
Yeah.
been everywhere. I've seen everything. You have not
That's a good
you
point.
have not
That's a good point.
read a book that describes someone's bloody nose dripping into a thigh covered in cum.
Yeah.
And I won't tell you what page it's on, so you'll read the whole
Yeah.
thing.
And the blood belonged to one person and the cum belonged to another person.
Yes.
And you'll have to figure out who's that as well. One of them was me.
It was the bloody nose guy.
You remember him? We had dinner with him.
So there, in case you haven't read the book, there's
he didn't bleed in the cum when we had dinner with
no,
him.
No. This was way before the dinner.
Yeah.
You got to whet the appetite.
Yeah, exactly. This was a very nice guy who, as I write about in the book, did sex work, and he was a long-term partner. I wanted to read that part of the book, and then I looked at it today and was like, oh, this is like a 4.5-hour read, but it's because there's a lot to tell about him. But he did become. Well, when I was doing sex work, I always pretended I was a dance student at Juilliard. And I don't dance. Don't ask me. And thank you. And with this guy, I got so, because I was seeing him so often, I got so tired of having to come up with small talk about my dance class, and I told him I changed my major to acting. And he was very impressed. So was I. And it was a good class. But then I then introduced them to our videos, though, and he was very, very impressed by them. And he called me in the middle of the night one night and was like, Jeffrey, have you ever seen Cinderfella? Oh. It was like Cinderfella, which is a Jerry Lewis movie. And I hadn't. And he was like, I'm taking you and your tiny friend, out to dinner, and beforehand you're going to come over and you're going to watch Cinderfella. Do you remember this?
I do, but when we got to his house, Cinderfella was already on. It was in the middle.
Yeah, like gay porn.
And I just remember, we sort of stood there and watched a few seconds of it, and he was obviously coked up.
Oh, 100%. And he was watching us watching Cinderfella.
Yeah.
And it was playing, I think, in his bedroom. I think we were sitting on the edge of his bed, and we were like, all right.
Yeah.
And it was like Jerry Lewis, being funny, coming down some stairs.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's, a great scene.
It is.
And and then we then walked though to dinner with him.
Yeah.
And we were very late to this dinner reservation.
He had a huge cape.
Yes, it was
huge cape.
He always wore this vintage Vivienne Westwood seersucker suit. That no matter the time of year. And it was a gorgeous suit. I get it. And with loafers with no socks. But then in winter, he would wear a Chilean opera cape. That was this very big black velvet cape over the summer suit. Very strange. And we were walking, it was in the snow. We were walking to this restaurant near his apartment, and he slipped on the ice.
Yeah.
And he cracks his face open. And he's got blood coming down his face. And we're running late to dinner. And we walk, and I'm like, oh God, we're just at this point. What do we do? But we want dinner,
Yeah.
And we walked into that restaurant, whatever the restaurant was, and I was so nervous because he looks crazy, and everybody in the restaurant clearly knew him. They're like, "Hello, Richard, come this way." And but as we walked in, do you remember we were walking to the front doors, and he goes, oh, "That's Maria Shriver," and it was so not Maria Shriver. It was it was just it couldn't have been more Maria Shriver.
Yeah.
And we were like, wow. And we were there. We closed that restaurant down.
I don't remember anything at the restaurant.
Oh, me either. Yeah. After Maria Shriver, I black out, which is often the case. Yeah.
Well, I gotta give you some credit because.
Oh, thanks. That's nice, Cole.
This guy always put me in touch with Johns.
It's true.
He always connected when I needed money. He would toss me one of his
rejects. Yeah.
That I could lay there for.
Yeah.
For $100, sometimes $40.
So hey.
Depending on
depends on the week, my friend.
Or
depends or the event you're buying clothes for, or your rent. It's sort of like a Dolly Levi situation, really.
Wait,
I was
what?
the Dolly Levi to your Irene. No, it's not quite.
Okay.
It's not. Now that I think about it.
I'm
really
Irene.
Not.
So if Irene Malloy
so she's selling hats, but the hats are sex work. I don't know.
Okay.
But I did. It was a very interesting time in our lives in that we were.
It's sort of how we became friends. Was I was looking to do sex work.
Yeah.
And I knew you were doing
First
it.
stop, Jeffery
First
Self.
stop,
Yeah.
Jeffery Self. What whores do I know? And you were the one who helped me set up my profile. Oh, I would run John's by you. I would be like, "Is this guy okay?"
Well, oh yeah, he checks out. He's a good guy.
yeah.
Head on up. Take
You'll
the
love
one.
him. It smells weird, but you'll love it.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
Allergic to nuts. Don't eat peanut butter before you go over.
I was so excited to read that you wrote about Jim, the guy that smelled like Subway onions.
Yes. Well, that was one we shared. Not much more to say, but he smelled distinctly like the onions at Subway. Not onions, but the onions at Subway.
Yeah.
Kind of mixed with that bread, I guess. It was, shout out to Jim. Hope you got that checked out at least. We shared a lot of those guys. And did you? Do you? I was gonna say though, do you like when you've been on Broadway and stuff lately, which you guys should check out if you haven't. It's called, what is it? I forget what it's called.
Exactly.
But no, when you've been doing that, have you had anyone reach out to you like?
I have. So I checked the whore email.
Yeah. What was yours? Mine was Jeff was Miller. I don't know why.
I think I can't remember. It was whatever my fake last name was, because I kept my real first name because I was like, I'm never going to remember to respond to a different name. Exactly. They're going to be like, Jordan, and I'm going to be like, no, my name's but I remember I checked it for some reason, and there was a note in there from someone from like 4 years ago who was like, I'm so happy for all of your success. And I was like, no. But his name was, I think this one was just one of mine.
Oh, well,
I don't think I ever shared him with you. Yeah. He lived in New Jersey.
Oh, I remember him.
You remember him?
Yeah.
And I would go over, and we had this whole routine where I would just walk into his apartment and pretend to look at his fish and be like, wow,
I remember those.
Look at them. Yeah. And then
I remember when you would resent it though. You'd be like, I don't have to go over there and look at these fucking fish.
Yeah. And then I remember one time I was so hungover, and we were in his elevator together, and as the elevator went up, I threw up in my own mouth.
Yeah.
And then I was like, swallowed it down and, followed through.
Went to look at some fish.
Look, nice work if you can get it,
truly,
as you say.
I say in this book, yeah.
I do want to read one of my favorite parts of the book.
That's sort of my job, but
okay. In the sex work chapter. I mean, they're all sex work chapters.
On some level.
Mere minutes after I finished, and the mere visual of my doing so was enough for him to follow suit before he sent me on my way, without ever once having to do so much as touch him. Nothing about that first experience was difficult. It didn't feel seedy or immoral or wrong. In fact, it was a little disappointing. I'd psyched myself up into thinking that what I was doing was so punk, so rock and roll, so shocking that by the time I finished, I would be such a new, more badass version of myself that people wouldn't even recognize me. However, as I walked back home past Lincoln Center, my dried cum gluing my American Apparel V-neck t-shirt to my stomach, I thought, is that all there is? Yeah.
We had a lot of those American Apparel V-necks.
You had a lot of those American Apparel V-necks. Come on.
Well, we both had all those American Apparel undies. I miss those.
Sure. I still have those. I need to get rid of them.
You should definitely get rid of that. That's like 12 years old, babe.
Yeah. I know.
That's not good.
Yeah. Wait, there was something. Why did I underline this part? Well, let me read it and see. He wanted to see me from so many angles. It felt less like he was offering to pay me $100 for a blowjob and more that he planned on flipping me into a 2-family duplex. Oh, I just like that line. I had no questions.
And real estate is very relatable.
Yes, sure. Do you have any of those Johns reached out to you, or are any of them here tonight? We won't point you out.
Everyone stands up.
I paid Jeffrey for sex. I paid Jeffrey for sex. Yeah.
I'd love that.
Yes, you would.
No, I'm sad it's not that.
I know.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
No. I feel like I what's interesting is while I was finishing writing the book, I kept walking by so many of the people's apartments that I would like.
You want to like ring and be like, "Hi, sorry, I
and
used
be
to
like,
jerk off for cash here.
Yeah.
Can I walk around?"
You're gonna love this book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this book.
Yeah. I haven't. I don't think I have been reached out to by any of them. But when you just said that, do you remember when I convinced you to hire someone?
Oh my God. Yeah, I do remember when you.
I convinced Cole to hire a sex worker once while we were sex workers, and it was not.
Well, here's what happened.
You have to tell this.
Okay.
It's so good.
So I was like, I was apartment sitting at a friend's apartment. Okay, he's not here, thank God. Oh, Glenn, yeah.
Okay.
And he came out. So I was pretending to be someone that
the best way to live.
Yeah, I was like, he came over and he recognized the apartment because he was friend, and it's not a good story.
The piano.
The piano?
You were claiming.
Oh, I claimed to be a piano player. Yeah. Wait, you tell the story. You remember
And then he said, you said, well, play something, and you don't play the piano.
Yeah.
And he said, play something, and you said, oh, I've been at that thing all day. I can't.
Oh, yeah.
I can't possibly. Deal with that now.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's a good lesson. Never
it's a good lesson.
Lie that you can play piano
when
you can't play
when there's
piano.
a piano
when
there.
There's a piano.
Yeah. Make
really
sure the piano's not there.
Yeah, it's a good lesson in life.
Any other embarrassing things
you want me to talk about for you?
Yeah.
Let's see. No.
Should we open it up to Q&A?
Well, let's continue on with the escorts just for a minute.
Sure.
15 years on, how do you reflect on that experience?
Yeah.
How does it fit in your life?
I have a lot of pride about it. I think it's a cool thing to have done. I think it's a
Why?
big why? Fuck off.
Why?
Fuck you. I think it's I think it was a very at times empowering and times not empowering, but at the end of the day it was a very big part of the two of us sort of falling into this friendship love, and the fact that it coincided with us making these scrappy videos for the first time and then being on Logo and literally being on a TV network and also doing this for money at the same
Logo
time.
executive offended
good.
by
Well,
that,
you owe us a lot of money. But I think it I think I can't picture what those years would have been like otherwise, and I don't think I would have gotten to do the things I got to do, and I admire and respect sex workers so much, and I think
I worked at
a
a bakery at the same time I
you
was
did?
doing sex work. I was like, bakery's for rent, the rest is for fun.
That's yes.
And it was way more degrading to make
Cupcakes.
$8.50 an hour and have people be like, sorry, this is really dry.
Right.
And be like, I don't see any of the profits from that. So and then I would have to apologize for something I'm not sorry for something I don't care about. That for $8.50.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I can make $100 if I just lay there and let someone's balls rest on my neck.
Yeah.
That is so much, and they're so happy.
Yeah.
They're so happy that
happy.
I'm there for them.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, you're literally throwing up in your mouth, and they're still happy.
He was thrilled, and
Yeah.
he loved those fish and showing me those fish. He was so proud.
I wonder if those fish are still alive.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
I don't think they live that long.
No. It's interesting to think about, though.
Yeah, really.
But I only kind of look back on it fondly. Yeah.
I just finished listening to the book.
Oh.
So great. If you're going to, listening is a great choice.
Yeah. And Meryl Streep reads it, which is cool.
Meryl Streep.
We got her.
In the book, you say there's a movie star in the building with the onion subway person. Can you tell us who the movie star was in the building that you would see?
I wouldn't put it in the book, but it was Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh.
But he would not. He was not hiring me as a sex worker.
No.
He wasn't like, I want this out of shape Juilliard dance student. he happened to live in the building. I saw him in the lobby once, and it probably was a temporary housing sort of situation. I don't think he
Sure.
probably owned.
He's very LA.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, not now. He's doing Broadway. Maybe he's back in that building.
I gotta go check.
Yeah.
Check on Jim while I'm in there.
Yeah.
Make a sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why'd you use his real name?
It's a good question. Well,
Yeah.
he does. I didn't use his last name.
Right. But he was a doctor, Dr. Jim.
I didn't say that in the book.
Oh.
But he was.
Yeah.
He was a doctor.
I guess my question is actor, writer, social media, TV show, books. If somebody gave you a blank check, what would you do to tell your story next?
That's a nice question. And one I've never thought of because I've never, that won't happen. I would love to like write and be in and direct like a good old fashioned black and white, quirky New York indie comedy. That's what I would like. Yeah.
This is for both of you.
Sorry.
Elaine Boozler, Elaine Stritch, or Olivia Newton-John. There is a right answer.
Oh.
Wait. Elaine Boozler,
Elaine
Elaine
Boozler.
Stritch,
Olivia
Newton-John.
Well, I mean, you know
Get
where
it
I'm
right.
going.
You know where
You know, it's
One,
where I
three,
live.
2, 1.
Oh,
Stritch.
Stritch. Yeah, I mean, duh.
Yeah.
The book literally opens with a quote that's everybody's got a sack of rocks, Elaine Stritch, which is actually her deceased husband, John Bay.
Bay.
But
Bay's English muffins.
yeah, anybody? Getting hungry? Stritch. I mean, Stritch all the way.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine another? I know we're talking about the book, but can you imagine if Elaine Stritch had gotten to do Oh Mary? Can you just imagine? Oh, I know. Now no one's going to want to go see you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I'm really just interested to hear more about your dance training at Juilliard.
Yeah.
What discipline was your favorite?
Well, I
Yeah.
talked a lot about floor work.
Yeah. Wait, do you know what floor work is?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean, you see dancers on the floor, and I love sitting down. So I figured, and like stretching, I feel like I was like, we're always stretching, and
that's what you would say to them,
yeah,
like, oh, I'm so sick of all this stretching.
Stretching, yeah.
Like, I want to get out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I do remember saying at one point, I was like, well, they won't even let us dance in front of an audience until the 4th year, which I don't even know if it's true. But it was just like a nice thing to complain about. And I'm
Yeah.
still mad about it.
An actual question though.
Yeah.
What about was there something in the book that like you wrestled like, oh, am I gonna put this in? Am I not gonna put this in? Whatever, and then you ultimately did put it in. And if so, what was it?
I guess I wrote a story about my that involves my sister that was about sort of when she was going through some stuff and was pregnant, and it paralleled with my own sort of debauched sexual awakening. And I felt at first not sure about, including her in it because I don't, want her to like lose her job by being associated with me. Which so many of you will tomorrow. Check your emails. But I wrestled with that a little bit, and then I was like, it's too good a story, so I'll just leave your name out. And she was fine with it. But I did say, like, I want to get your permission before this goes in the book, and was fully, like, already in the copy edit process. So was hopeful, that wouldn't go the other way, and it didn't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Cole Escola.
Thank you, Jeffery Self.